all those names.
It's fine.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Conversations from Stritch. Today is May 26th, 2022, and I'm really glad to be back for another episode and also our last episode of the summer. I do want to say, in the aftermath of another horrific mass shooting at a school, we pray for the children, the teachers, family members, the community, all who have suffered this unbearable loss in Uvalde, Texas. This week's shooting follows on the shooting in Buffalo this month, and we pray for an end to the scourge of gun violence that impacts our daily lives all over this country. It is also natural for acts of violence like this to make members of our community have a heightened interest in how we at Lewis prepare as an institution and how you can prepare as an individual. Our Lewis University Police Department and our campus emergency preparedness team prepares and trains for responding to campus incidents. There is, as you can see on this slide, the university assessment team provides resources and assistance for students and faculty and staff who may be in distress. And if you believe, any one of you believe that you notice a community member who needs help, it is your duty to act for the safety of the entire community. So referrals can be made directly to the Center for Health and Counseling Services, Residence Life, Dean of Student Services, Human Resources, or the University Police Department, in person or by telephone or email. Reports can also be submitted anonymously by clicking the referral concern link from the emergency planning webpage. Incidents requiring an immediate response should be communicated to the Lewis University Police Department directly by dialing extension 5911 from a campus phone or 815-836-5911 from a mobile phone. The web address for the LUPD also is available. LUPD provides training to community members on both violence prevention and response to active threats of incidents, shooters, any kind of situations like that. LUPD trainers will visit your office, residence hall, organization, team, or department virtually or in person to conduct these trainings. You may request a training session by visiting the LUPD community education page and completing a community education request form or calling or emailing Ask Us. You can email me in my office. You can email the LUPD directly. And I just want to emphasize with all of this, what we're trying to say is that we want to make sure that our community is aware, this kind of classic see something, say something mentality, so that we remain safe as a community. On another note, as we move into this Memorial Day weekend, I also wanted to thank all of our service members who have sacrificed for our country and for our freedom. We are very proud to have so many veterans studying at Lewis, but many of us have had family members who are no longer with us and served our country, and we remember them all with gratitude this weekend. So I want to turn this over to my co-host, Dr. Christopher Sent, for, again, our last show, but we always have news and updates. It feels like it absolutely doesn't matter what time of year it is. There's always so many things going on. So, Chris?
Hello, thank you. Hello, everyone. Great to be with you. Yeah, there is always so much going on, and I'd just like to share my good wishes for the Memorial Day weekend, and I hope people have some time to remember the people service members they've lost in their lives and their families. Yesterday was our first new flyer registration we talked last week about with the leaders of that group. And I'd just like to thank all of the staff and faculty who worked together to make the day a great success, the first of 4 that we're having in late May and early June. We registered 140 students yesterday. It's a lot of work for a lot of people, and it's just so wonderful to have essentially 140 new community members, more than we did the day before. So as I said, we'll have a few more over the next couple of weeks, and we look forward to welcoming new flyers into the Lewis community. We've mentioned a couple times summer term is underway. I think it's sometimes people who are part of our community or work in our community, walk around campus. We just walked over here. It's really quiet. Don't realize like how much is really going on during summer at Lewis. So I just wanted to mention that we have 744 undergraduate students and 1,722 graduate students enrolled currently this week. We also have an 8-week term starting on Tuesday and another 8-week term starting on July 5th. So it's not too late to register for summer classes if you're interested. And we have a couple big athletic announcements before we move on.
And it is amazing that there's 2,500 students basically that are studying, and you and your team have made it so convenient for our students that live at a distance from campus to do those classes. Almost all those classes are online, which is why we don't see a lot of activity, though there are some in-person classes, and certainly we have, for instance, the summer undergraduate research experience that's going on. So there's a lot going on campus, but certainly not as busy as usual. One of the things that's still going on athletically is the track and field teams will be sending 7 individuals to participate in the 2022 NCAA Division II Outdoor Track and Field Championships. It's going to be hosted by Grand Valley State. We're really excited. It starts today, continues over the weekend. Our student athletes include Ariana Emil Ramos, Natasha Burnett, Alicia Cardio, Jada Hoffman, Cassidy Learn, and Eliza Vanden Elzen. Also Keegan Zach. So those athletes will be competing at the highest level that you can compete at in any sport, is going to the national championships. And we're really excited for them and wish them well this weekend. The Lewis University Athletic Department is pleased to announce that the 42nd annual golf outing is on Friday, June 10th at Cog Hill Golf Club in Lamont. I will be there. My team never wins, but we certainly enjoy our time, and it's going to be a great event. In addition, and this is new because we had to postpone it, this year's event will feature the Hall of Fame brunch at 10 a.m. Golf registration is underway at 11:30 with a shotgun start at 1. The brunch features the formal induction of the newest Lewis Flyer Hall of Fame class. Malgorzata Biela, track and field 1998. Jamie Heffler, softball 2013. Doug McBride from volleyball 1997 grad. Austin Real, basketball, graduated in 2004. And Sarah Scott, a swimmer for us who graduated in 2003. The Lewis University Athletic Department will also honor Mr. Larry Weirs as the Lewis University Athletics LaSallian of the Year. So it should be, the 10th should be a great day. Hopefully we get some good weather, but we'll look forward to honoring our Hall of Famers as well as Larry for our LaSallian of the Year. So, but COVID is still among us. I will say, and you may talk about this, but I just saw that the Illinois numbers are beginning to tend down. So we have a lot of COVID in our area, but it seems to be flattening out.
Yes, that's right. And I will talk about that. Before I do that, I just also want to say I'm really sorry that I'm going to miss the golf tournament and the Hall of Fame. I always love the Hall of Fame event, to see these great Flyers come back to campus or to come back to their athletic community and be honored. It's just such a cool thing. So please go. And I encourage people to sign up if you can, and attend that or both.
One quick thing before you get to COVID. So I just wanted to say we had 2 members of the Lewis community who were honored at the GLVC event that I was at on Tuesday night with Dr. Planick. So one of our former student athletes and one of our former coaches were both inducted into the Hall of Fame for the GLVC. The other thing is that we finished second in both the Commissioner's Cup, so best performance in the GLVC, and second in the best performance on the national scale in terms of these championships. So Lewis student athletes just do an amazing job every year.
Absolutely. So congratulations to all, and to our new Hall of Famers. So about COVID, we do have some just really brief updates. As President Livingston said, the numbers are going down a little bit. They're, I think, at last last week when we talked about this, it was about 335 per 100,000 today, or a couple days ago it was 289. So yeah, we're seeing that drop throughout in a lot of different numbers. The positivity ratio also going down in the region, but we are still in the medium classification in our area. 2 cases last week, 2 cases so far this week. Many people are not on campus. So it's understandable and logical that the numbers are going down, but also it seems to be trending downward generally. Just a couple reminders, we are mask optional and mask friendly in all spaces on our campus. The members of our community are strongly encouraged to stay up to date on COVID-19 vaccinations, and we'll continue to track CDC guidelines and other authorities around vaccinations as they evolve over the summer. Testing is required at least through May 28th for unvaccinated individuals. We do not know what will happen after that, so we will send out probably some alerts through social media and targeted emails to individuals who may be in that category as we find out more from the state coming back on Tuesday. The members of our community are required to share their COVID-19 vaccination status, report positive cases, and continue to follow all aspects of the Flyers Promise throughout the summer and into the fall. So that's it on COVID. I'm really pleased to transition into our focus for the day. I'm excited to introduce today's guest, Teresa Krejci, who will be focusing today on the campus master plan and on facilities changes over the summer and beyond. Teresa joined Lewis in March of 2019 as the Vice President for Finance and the Chief Financial Officer. She is responsible for the university's finances, human resources, and facilities. Prior to her time at Lewis, Teresa was the Chief Financial Officer at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa. Teresa, welcome to the Conversations from Stritch.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us today. This is an exciting topic. I mean, everybody on campus gets excited about what's going to change, what will it look like when I get back, all that kind of stuff. So thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to discuss some of the improvements that we have in the works for this summer and in the next few years. The appearance of our campus has always been something we've been really proud of. A lot of times we have people come to campus and the first thing they say is, wow, this is a beautiful campus.
It's true, everyone says that.
It never gets old.
Really, all our people doing that, working
Yes.
on that should be really proud.
We love to hear it. I don't like to thank Keith Cameron and his whole facilities department for the work that they do year round. I mean, they're the reason we get these compliments, so we really appreciate their hard work. But we're always looking for improvements. We want to make ways that we can improve our facilities as technology changes or just things that we've learned over time through the pandemic and with COVID. We want to adapt best to fit the students' needs. And one of those priorities is in our strategic plan to invest in our campus core. So we have a slide to show you kind of a visual of what we mean when we say campus core. And this was developed through the work with Smith Group as we developed our campus master plan. And you can see on here what we're trying to show as a picture is there's core pockets of academics or student life and how we want to make our campus more connected. So in the future, the perimeter is more where the roads and parking would be, and interior would be more of a pedestrian campus. So as we make current decisions, we're looking at this vision to make sure that we're looking towards that. So that's been very helpful.
So Teresa, can I just stop you just because before we move on from this slide, can you leave the slide up there though, if you could? So just so people that might be looking at this understand, so the purple, I guess what I would call on near the bottom is on the north side of campus, the kind of academic building and then runs down to residence life in the yellow at the bottom that people are familiar with, Dorothy Day, JP2. Just because I'm not sure, just looking at this, people have a sense of the north to south would be kind of the academic building on the north running down to our residence halls on the south, and that oval encompasses that. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but
I'll say, while we're still looking at the image, I think Teresa said this, I'll just say it again, but the dotted line that creates that oval in the very long term, year by year, month by month, as we make changes, and many of which we'll talk about in a minute, are designed to make that, what's inside of that oval, walkable, engaging, connected, so you feel more, even more like you're on a campus that is understandable and you can move through and have a recognition of.
And off to the side there is St. Charles Borromeo, and it's going to serve a very important function for those departments that have different needs and access and activities that can be put in that area so that more of the academics are staying in the core center of campus.
Great.
So what else do you want to talk about?
So our list of projects, there's about 150 items, so don't plan on discussing all of those today, but I do want to point out a few. Initially, I'll just start and say there's a slide on our general university improvements. This is just to let you know that every year we do something related to roads and parking and sidewalks and lighting on a rotational basis to make sure that we're keeping up on our general maintenance of the campus and keep everything in good condition. So I'm not talking specifically about all of those things, but that's done every year.
Okay, can I stop?
Sure.
Exactly 12:16 is when I always forget to say.
Ask us.
Ask us at, what is it?
LewisU.edu. Ask us at LewisU.edu.
Ask us at LewisU.edu. There it is. Thank you. If you have a question, if you're looking at that list and say, oh, what's that mean? And we're not talking about it, please write in there and we'll get the question and try to get it answered.
And I do want to just a quick comment on that as well. I mean, one of the things that tends to happen throughout the year, and this can be, challenging to certain people, is they might put in a request to have something fixed. And for Keith and his team, they may say, well, we're going to replace all those windows this summer. So it might, in October, we might just, do a quick fix of it because we know that next summer, or, some people, for instance, when we get to May, there are some potholes as we drive around. We all have experienced that. And it's because we're going to redo those in the summer. We're doing a big, redo of certain parts of the roads or sidewalks. So we try to fix things during the year that we can kind of deal with in the moment, but sometimes people might feel like they didn't do it the way that I thought they should do it. It's because they might get to it in the summer. Completely new roof.
As part of a bigger project.
Yes, yeah.
And maybe we could look at that one more time and see if we have any
questions about that list,
additions or things to mention. I know that our students especially are, I just really want to appreciate our student government again. They were really helpful in giving advice about some of these things, and parking lots in particular is something they have returned to quite a few times this year. So I'm really grateful for their feedback that's helping us with that.
We'll be updating specifically some of the things that were mentioned at Student Senate. So it's been very helpful feedback from them, or let us know if you want to make sure something's on the list.
Yeah, it's great. And we're grateful. As you say, 150 projects is a lot. Some of these are relatively small. Some of the bigger ones we'll talk about now.
Yep. So there's a slide that kind of shows, I've just, again, picking out a few things, some of those that are related to what I would call student-centered. The first one being North Hall. So North Hall is being renovated over 3 phases. The first phase was started last year and will be completed this summer. Students that are going to move in this fall are going to see a new renovated place for that section with renovated bathrooms in the suites, as well as new flooring, paint, and furniture in their living area. So that's going to be exciting for that group. And then there's a second phase that'll start this fall and be finished next summer, and then the third phase accordingly. So then it'll be totally renovated when that's done. So that's an exciting thing for students to move into. Also in the Student Center, on the lower level, there's going to be an area that's going to make it more inviting and functional gathering space for commuter students, and also a space that'll be welcoming, transactional space for students, prospective students, current students, and visitors in the Student Center. Kind of needed a way for people to be welcomed and get direction and make transactions. So
that's the first floor of the Student Center, like where the pool table and
in the lower lobby,
yeah.
Yep. So you'll see that coming. Next big one is Fitzpatrick Hall. So we will be removing that by the end of September. That'll be gone, and just at this point be grass, but we have big plans for that. That area, Fitzpatrick Hall, is right in the center of campus with a corresponding parking lot that just has a huge area, and that opens up a great opportunity for us to add to this campus quad that we already have and transform that place and create this connection that we're looking for. It'll be primarily an outdoor space, something students can use year-round, but we're excited about so many different possibilities that it can be. We are going to look for some expert help on this, hire an architect so they can help with the design, get input, and so it will be something that takes place not this summer, but over maybe even a couple years as we work out this final plan. Taking down Fitzpatrick does kind of create a domino effect. It does house esports, so esports will be relocated into De La Salle. That'll be done this summer, so you'll see that done. And then in the De La Salle, it's going to go into the current student lounge. So we're also going to build out a new student lounge for the students in De La Salle, which will be, I think, on the 3rd floor. So that'll all be done this summer.
Wonderful. So a couple questions have come through. And I'm probably the person to answer it.
So why don't I ask you? So one of the questions that just came through was, okay, so we hear that you're not going to replace it right away with this outdoor stuff. It's going to be grass when people kind of view it either in September, October, when it finally gets done. But the question, and Chris, you're responsible for housing and obviously work with Teresa to make sure that we have the right financial model to be able to afford and all those kinds of things. But the question is, so we're taking these, I think 120 beds or 140 beds offline. Are we going to be building a new residence hall?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the immediate answer is no. We've had, and we don't imagine, as Teresa just said, we don't imagine a residence hall in that location because we're really happy about opening up that quad. And one thing that's, I've tried to do in the last couple of, or last 6 months is stand in front of the chapel and look in that direction and imagine what it will be like to see through where Fitzpatrick is right now over the curve of that hill. It's going to be really cool. And so if we do build, it will be in another location, probably in the south, in that little yellow residential area that we looked at earlier on the map. But we don't really need to do that immediately because we have had excess space in our residence halls for quite a long time, and especially as our residential population came down during COVID, we still are building back up that population, and we'll get there soon in a year or two. But it gives us a little time to rethink how we're approaching our residence halls, and improving from the inside out, as we talked about with North Hall, is a really big part of our planning, and I'm sure we'll keep going in that direction as after North Hall is completed. Anything else from that?
Well, you had on the list, and I don't think we need to bring the list back up, but the renovations of the first floor of the LRC. So as you walk into the LRC, we've been trying over the years to create kind of a one-stop shop, but I know there's going to be some renovations to that. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yes, so when our first floor of the LRC, when you walk in there, has a lot of student services, registrar, financial aid, the police, residence hall, business office, bursar. Probably missing somebody, but that when you walk in there, there's not directional to know where to go and no one to greet you. And I think that we need to create more of an opening, welcoming environment where you walk in and you see a smiling face to say, how can I help you? And I think we can do that. I think we can do that with an area, a type of reception area, a type of someone that can answer nearly all of your questions or direct you to the right person. So we want to have some design help with that to put something in that place, and also renovates a little bit more of that corridor and the restrooms and the washrooms on that, or the second floor. We're looking at both of those. So we're excited about doing something for that as well.
It's great. It's great. Yeah, I think that, that there's been renovations, I think, over the last, 4 or 5 years, and each summer we kind of make it a little better.
And one thing we did right before COVID was we actually created this problem by bringing all of those offices together that really support students. Many of them were there before, but we moved some offices into that space because we wanted to create an environment that was like a one-stop shop where you could just walk into that front door of the LRC, and very likely there'd be someone on the first floor or maybe on the third floor who would help you, and people could just say, oh, that office is right next door, we'll go over there. But then COVID happened and we never really followed through on the signage part or the creating a clear sense of who is there in the building. And so I feel like it's kind of a completion of that vision that we had 3 or 4 years ago to bring those offices together. Also, I'm really excited. I'm really glad you mentioned transfer students in the renovation of the Brother James Gaffney Center. or the the small changes that we're making down there, because that is a really exciting prospect to create a home where transfer students can go. And we know there are many other places on campus where that's true. That happens to be the place where the lockers are located too, and so on. So I like the idea of that floor of the Gaffney Center being a great place for transfer students to come.
So we also have some other general areas that I think you have slides on. So kind of student life that you've addressed.
Athletics, next one is athletics. So a few improvements there. One is baseball and softball. The infields will be turfed, and that's going to be great for using those fields more often. It's used by the community. It'll make it more dependable when people schedule things there. So that's already underway. You'll see that done. There's
I've heard that it rains in this area
a
in
lot.
May and June
Once in a
during
while.
baseball
Yes.
season.
It's
Yes.
cold and rainy.
I think after
Yeah.
4 years, I'm getting used to that. It helps to have turf.
There's also Flyers, the pavilion over by the stadium. That's an area that will be enclosed. That's just going to provide more space for the teams and to get out of inclement weather. So that's an exciting change that we've been looking at for a while. A big one here now would be the athletic dome, a recreation complex. So we've had this on our thoughts for quite a while. We're looking forward to putting that in place, finding a location that's going to work, deciding what all we're going to need it for. But we have needs with athletics and recreations that we're not able to satisfy all those needs because of our current spaces. So this has come up time and time again, and we're excited to get moving on that.
Yeah, it's very, I've been, every time when I come into campus, I always take a left instead of a right to just drive around campus once, and they have already torn up both the softball and the baseball field. So if anybody's on campus and you want to see the kind of process of putting in that turf, you can walk down to the baseball field or softball field. I know we had a question that came in, and I think, here's what I think it is about.
I just asked
Okay,
for clarification on that question.
Here's what I think it's about. We have about 400 acres, a little over 400 acres on campus. We use a little over 200 of those acres right now. There are some areas that we can't use because they're watershed and that kind of stuff. But I think the question is about what are we going to do with all the extra space we have, the farmland, the extra areas that we have that are in green space right now. I think you mentioned one of those things, which is this, likelihood, or, I think we're going to put up a dome, additional recreation space. We've talked about second entrance that would come into part of that space.
Well, maybe you could talk about that for people who may
Sure.
not know
So
about
yeah, for people that aren't aware, we've been talking about for years the need for a second entrance. As many people on campus are aware, there are days where unfortunately we will have an accident that's right on 53 that clogs things up, and it's really hard to get into campus. We have times after commencement where we have one place where people can leave campus, so it gets really crowded to try to leave. So a second entrance off of Renwick is something that we're already in conversations already with the county, with the local municipality, working with IDOT to try to get, we'll have to get another signal there, all those kinds of things that go into that. So it's a long-term project, but that will take up some of that space that we own that's even to the south of where our residence halls are, and all the way down to Renwick, which the university owns. Many people know that, and I think that's what the question is about. I will say one more thing that sometimes I think people say, why don't we build on that space between basically Stritch Hall and St. Charles Borromeo? You got this beautiful green spot. I drive down 53 to come to campus. I see this green space. So one of the two of you can answer that. I know the answer, but I mean, why don't we build on that beautiful green lawn that lies between St. Charles and the core of campus, as we call it?
Okay, I'll do it. So that is flyway space for the airport. And it's exactly in line with the runway that many planes use who land at the airport, and take off from the airport. So we are not allowed to build on that land. We might edge into the edges a little bit if we wanted to, but not. We can't. Most of it is flyway.
Yeah, and it's just it is one of our great assets to have an airport that we can use for the 700 students that are in aviation. But it also creates these limitations. That is also a part of what it's like to live near an airport, so to speak.
We were really lucky to have a lot of land. I mean,
We
just
are.
to be able to say, hey, we want a dome, we have a spot right there. And so we do have more land
Yeah.
that opportunities come up that we can take advantage of that, so.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. I
And
mean,
we're
many-
really interested in ideas. Like I think we have this great nature trail that some people may not know about. We talk about it at orientation, which is why it's on my mind. A Frisbee golf course. Those are both down in the wetland area. But we could do more stuff like that if that's of interest to members of our community. And we have a running path that goes all the way around or basically around the edge of campus, which is really cool. But we're definitely interested in other ways to make the whole piece of property usable for our community.
All right, so we have other projects.
So we'll move on to some academic spaces.
Okay.
Another big project is to develop plans to upgrade various classrooms, labs, gathering spaces throughout campus. Now, this is something we do every year. We're always updating classrooms and labs, but we're kind of taking this on by increasing the number of rooms that we're going to do over the next few years and make sure that we've upgraded with new technology, furniture, flooring, lighting in these areas, and creating the classroom of the future, if you will. So we're really excited about designing these spaces, and part of this effort includes creating more collaborative spaces for students. Having students have these types of places to gather, whether it's just for social gatherings or to work together, we're finding is really a need, and we want to expand those and create those opportunities throughout our campus, so we're working on that. The meeting rooms that we'll be updating, I'll mention one in the university faculty dining rooms that are right alongside Charlie's place. They're used frequently, so you're going to see an upgrade over the summer of just the furniture and the flooring and the lighting and things in that particular room. So we're going to be working on the rooms that we need to update, spreading those throughout campus, making sure we have the right technology of the future. So that'll be something you'll notice as we implement. Another thing, just improvements to Convocation Hall. That's going to help enhance that space so that mainly with acoustics, it can be really the overall experience for events that are held there would be improved. And then we will be renovating portions of South Hall. That's part of a new space for our physical therapy program that's going to be in the next year or two. So we'll be working on those plans to create this vision eventually for really a health sciences corridor or space in one area on campus. So that's a big project. That's just going to be in the design stage, but we are going to be starting that new physical therapy program. So we have a timeline. We have to get that done, but we're excited about that progress.
So we had another question come in, Chris, that I think is really more for you, though either one of you can address it. And that's about the dome. So is the dome going to be able to be used by average students or just for teams? And I'll just say at the front end, the dome is going to be about the size, not exactly as the field house, and it will function in some ways like a field house, except it'll have turf instead of indoor track. And so it'll allow for those opportunities for teams that in the winter and the early spring when it's cold and wet and rainy, as Chris already mentioned, that will have this indoor space. But who will likely use it, Chris?
Yeah, I think the answer is that everyone will use it. If you are a student, or if you're a student athlete, that we are often challenged to schedule space in the field house, especially in the winter, for the teams and for the recreation that goes on in there. And so it's really going to allow us, so certainly the NCAA teams will use it who compete in those environments, or especially soccer and lacrosse, but even baseball will use it during the winter, I presume. And then, but it won't be all the time. And so it'll allow us to both have the field house open more for recreation as well as it will be available for recreation.
Right. I mean, and by doubling the space, I think, the basic thing for people to know is by doubling the indoor space that is just expansive like that and creating two different types of flooring, so to speak, everybody will benefit from that. Students who aren't on teams, intramurals, students who just want to do pickup game of football.
Well, I'm really imagining, if you do an intramural sport or a club sport now that practices or competes on the field next to the stadium, a lot of times you just cancel things if it's wet or super cold, and so you'll be able to play in those intramurals and so on all through the winter because you'll be able to move into, or it'll be scheduled in the dome or scheduled in the field house instead of outside. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
What else?
I have
do we
many things I want to say about the academic piece.
Yeah,
Go
We'll
ahead.
try
Go
to remember
ahead.
that.
Yeah.
It's true that we update classrooms all the time, but I'm really excited about this project that essentially feels to me like a 3-year project where we have set a new standard. Certainly it's related to what we learned during COVID in terms of the ability to do hybrid education or high flex education where some people can be remote and some people can be in the classroom at the same time. It's not all that it's about, but it's, it enables, the classrooms will be enabled to do that as we go through. So that'll be an easier option and a more quick option rather than a big setup every time for some of our classrooms. But also just really stuff that people maybe don't notice, but it impacts them, lighting and flooring and things like that. I think will be really transformative over time. And many of our classrooms are really great as it is, and but this gives us a chance to, at a much larger scale and at a higher level, to upgrade over a shorter period of time. So I think it's a huge thing that people will really notice over the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to remember.
South Hall?
Yeah, no, I think you said that really well.
Okay.
We're really excited to welcome PT, and then also to, and we're just beginning with architects, so we don't quite know how what's going to be in there and how, but I really am hoping for a tighter community of the health sciences in terms of all the different programs and faculty and students that we have in all of our nursing and health sciences programs, being able to be close to each other.
That's great.
Very good. The next section is just kind of some general campus areas. The first one, Dave talked about earlier, was the second entrance. So that is going to be, we're looking at it, connecting to Renwick, and it's going to be using some of the land as we try to create this larger campus core and out roads that kind of go outside the perimeter of campus. It will be using some of that area, but very exciting to look at that. And then another thing that we're looking at is the exploration of a bike path, and in connection with both Lockport and Romeoville, we were doing some initial engineering to prepare to apply for grants that would help connect us both to Lockport, going east-west, or to Romeoville. So that's an exciting project which our students can then access it immediately from our campus and be able to travel to those areas by bike. So we're hoping that's probably a few years down the road as we go through the grant application, but we're partnering with those groups to see what we can come up with. Campus signage is something that's going to be big. You're going to see that go up over the summer. We have current signs for each building, and we're going to replace these with more vibrant red. Use our flyer reds. You can see that throughout campus.
So they're going to match the chairs.
They're going to match the chairs. There'll be better wayfinding, and on each individual building, you'll be able to see what departments are in that building. So more information than we have now when you're trying to find your way around campus, and eventually with a QR code that you can hover over that and see more detail about what departments and people are in each building. In addition to that, more banners on some of the light poles. We have a lot of light poles, a lot of opportunities to just add our flyer red and more inspiration around campus, so you'll see both of those happening over the summer.
What is wayfinding?
In order to be directed to, you get into, we have lots of sidewalks, and sometimes there's a fork in the road, which way do I go? So we're hoping these signages help with all that.
They will help with that.
Yeah.
They will, for sure. So, for all of us can respond to this, but maybe the two of you can talk a little bit about, you've both been so involved in the strategic plan. You were also both very involved in the campus master plan. So could you talk a little bit about how this summer's renovations, new additions, future additions that'll be coming in the next, some of them won't start till next summer, connect into our kind of core values and our strategic plan? Like how does this summer's campus improvements connect to our vision of kind of the campus we want to create, and how does it connect to our campus master plan, strategic plan?
I'll say first, our campus master plan had certain guiding principles. So when we do make an improvement, we're looking at those principles to help guide us on our decisions. And one of those was build community on campus. So creating those inspiring places, both inside and outside, where faculty and staff can gather and connect to each other, connect to the Lewis community, connect to nature. We want to be sure that everything we're doing amplifies student success and support of the success of our students. We also are prioritizing reuse of our current facilities, so we're going to look first to how we can use those before we would create an addition or build. And then, as we talked about, enhance the core of campus, so make it more walkable with roads and parking around the perimeter. So those are some of the guiding principles that help us when we are looking at making changes to our campus.
So, Chris, could you add a little bit to that on the strategic plan in terms of, I mean, Teresa already mentioned this, but just kind of this sense of, especially kind of helping our students to succeed in terms of that, not just meeting them where they're at, but focusing on their success, both in the classroom and out of the classroom. So we've talked about things like renovations to South Hall, but also renovations to North Hall, and renovations to the LRC, and renovations to the Gaffney Center. So maybe you could just talk about how that fits into this strategy in terms of where we're moving toward.
Yeah, I guess I would say there's two things that we've that are common to every detail almost that we've talked about, or maybe three. You know, there's the sort of general feel of the campus and how it's kept up to date, and like we said at the very beginning, it's beautiful, and you know that is really special at Lewis in terms of continuing to you know, fix broken things is not super common at universities, and so just being on this campus makes people feel like they want to stay. So that's one thing. Second, we are almost, so many of these details, as you just mentioned, are about serving our students in a way, or either serving them in terms of making signage clear, or making help clear, or creating an environment where they can engage with each other and with faculty in a way that's more meaningful. So you know, we listed 10 projects that are kind of along those lines, and that's really one of our core goals of the new strategic plan around creating the Lewis experience, is what we generally call it, and a lot of that has to do with the environment that the students are in, that's both physical as well as the people who are around to support them in the right conditions, where people can be supported and more engaged and want to be sitting, or you know, it could be sitting in a cafe, or it could be sitting in one of those new collaborative spaces that we talked about. I think a lot of our decisions around the campus master plan and what goes on in that core, even the green space that's, or that whatever happens in that space that's left by Fitzpatrick's absence, is that's the question that we're trying to ask, is how can we create a place where students can have community outdoors in that space. And then the last thing I would say is, and maybe unconsciously why I emphasize that classroom renovation, is that really, really high quality teaching is a big focus of our strategic plan. It's a huge part of our history. We've always been good at it. It's part of our LaSallian heritage. But trying to think about how the environments that we create that are both in person in the classroom and virtual in online education is a big part of our strategic plan. So that's really the baseline of why we're emphasizing investing in really high quality classrooms as well as labs. And you know, we didn't really talk about that too much, but continuing to keep our labs up, you know, as high quality as we possibly can with new equipment and you know, cutting edge equipment that's relevant to professionals in the workplace. And then we keep using this word collaborative, but it's really something that a lot of, you know, Teresa and I talk about it all the time, you know, when we're trying to think, oh, we have a space, how do we make people feel like they want to go there, work together, talk to each other there, talk across the table, have something where they can write on the board and collaborate on a class project. We're almost every time we have an opportunity, we're creating a space like that. And that's really consistent with our goals in the strategic plan.
Yeah, I just think that's great. So, Teresa, any last comments that you want to make?
No, I'm excited to be here, and it's great to talk about these projects. And I think that we do look to our strategic plan to lead us, and then our campus master plan to guide those decisions. And so it's exciting with everything we have going on.
That's great.
Well, thank you. It's
Yeah,
great.
sure.
I love talking about this
really
stuff,
grateful.
Thank
for
you, Keith and Dwight and everyone who
Yeah.
do so much to make it this way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'll wrap things up. Yeah, again, thank you to Keith and Dwight, and really a whole team of 25 professionals that know about plumbing or electricity or how you move trees or how to plant grass. You know, it's amazing. And I did hear this, you know, just a little aside. I was at an event and I want to congratulate Dr. Judy Mitchell, who's retiring from JJC, a great partner institution of ours. But I was talking to one of our alumni who said, I couldn't make it to the alumni day, 2 weeks ago, but I heard from everybody that went to the Sigma Delta event, the campus was so beautiful. That's what they said. You know, some of them have been here since the 70s, 80s. They're like, it's just amazing how much better it looks than it did when we were students there, and how beautiful it looks. So again, thank you to everyone who works to make this campus a beautiful place for our new students who are going to be joining us this fall, but also for our past students who come back and take such great pride in this institution. Second thank you that I want to make, it is our last show today for the season. So I want to especially thank John Kilpatrick, who's back in studio right behind this wall, but all of our students, because there's a couple students here this summer, grateful to them, but also there's been probably 15 or 20 students throughout this season who have done an amazing job of making Chris and I and our guests feel comfortable, look better than we deserve to look on camera. And so we've learned so much from them, and so grateful for their work. I want to thank the whole Lewis community for this year, for creating a safe and healthy learning environment for everyone, in spite of all the work that has to be accomplished over the summer. And there are so many people that will work all summer. So when I say these kind of things of relax over the summer, I want to recognize that our people in facilities, our people in admissions, financial aid, they sometimes work harder over the summer than they thought they could because the year was so challenging. But we do hope, and especially starting with this weekend, that people will take some time, be with your family, be with your friends, take some time for yourself to relax. Use the Memorial Day, but use the half-day Fridays, use the time this summer to recharge yourself and take an opportunity to be grateful. There's so much pain in this world, but there's also so much to be grateful for. And Lewis University and its community is one of those things that we can be incredibly grateful for. So many blessings to you and your family. Have a wonderful Memorial Day and enjoy the summer.